Welcome back. I'm here today with Tonks. He's author of the book, Replacing the Rainmaker. Ian, welcome to today's show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And, for the listeners here, before we get into the book, can you give us a background of, your journey in life up to date and actually what really inspired you to start into writing the book?
Okay. So born and raised in the UK, as may still be clear with my accent all these years later. Moved to the States in 1987 after graduating with an undergraduate degree in exercise science. Spent 2 years in the Caribbean as a tour guide for the National Park Service and had an opportunity to work for the organization that later became Major League Soccer. It was then referred to as North American Soccer in 1989. Came on board before Major League Soccer was formed and then worked for the organization that ran all of the youth development activities for Major League Soccer, the NFL, and Jack Nicklaus's Golden Bear International from 1989 through to 2006. 2006, got married, decided I wanted to stay married, couldn't travel 190,000 miles a year, and so took a job at Dominican University of California 4 miles down the street and commuted back and forth to Dominican for 3 years. In what would be 2009, I left the university and decided I wanted to work for myself. And I started the process of auditioning for my own time, started 5 DBAs under the heading of Ian Tonks Companies, LLC. One survived, it was called Revco Solutions, and 6-7 years later, that ultimately evolved into Replacing the Rainmaker, which is the title of the book.
It's interesting as you look back on the journey through life. I mean, that soccer, helping to launch the NFL here in North America, but 190,000 miles a year? Is that, wow.
13 offices in the US. We were based in New York. I was based in California. All of our staff were recruited in the United Kingdom. So you put that together and you can see how easy it is to run that many miles. Lots of frequent flyer points, didn't pay for hotels, but the downside was an emotional toll on family relationships and being able to commit to simple things like being able to play on a team or in envisioning having a family and being at a PTA meeting. That was a life I could not have. So
well, I can appreciate that. So the book, you started Revco, worked for a few years, it was not just one, but how many, you said 4 different businesses?
There were
going?
5 DBAs unrelated. I was a personal trainer to women in remission of breast cancer. That was Fit Pink. I started a product development company developing sports educational materials for recreational coaches called Easy Coach. But Revco survived. It was essentially revenue generation, business development, and cost reduction for professional service firms, accounting, law, engineering, that type. And that was enough to pay the bills, but a fortuitous meeting some years later with a former CEO of Camelback changed my life, and that's ultimately how Replacing the Rainmaker was born.
So let's jump into Replacing the Rainmaker. First of all, the title. How did you come up with that?
You know a lot about the accounting industry. There are a number of baby boomers that are retiring and leaving behind them firms that are ill-equipped to survive and grow from a business development perspective. They have essentially carried business development in their firms. And I was hired by a San Francisco firm to do a practice combination campaign, cold calling 180 plus San Francisco-based firms that they believed were prospects for acquisition. And I probably contacted 5+ people who were 80+ in age who said, call me back in 5 years. So it was clear that there was this commitment to stay in the business, but there wasn't a support structure behind them to allow that firm to thrive once they left. And so the story about Replacing the Rainmaker is how ultimately do you make business development a firm-wide priority in a firm?
I'll have to say this. You picked an industry that is not easy to change. The CPAs, attorneys are typically late adopters in professional service, but how have things been going so far?
So far, so good. So the journey was 2 years in the making. So while I was still working with an eclectic mix of clients from aviation to human resources, from law through to party rentals, I was developing this content behind the scenes. It took 6 months to write the book, and then another 6 months to develop the content, 41 workshops which support 96 topics in the book. And then another year to actually get it to a form that could be digested by the public, which was perhaps the greatest challenge. And so the book was really the genesis of the idea, and it came from a meeting with the former CEO of Camelback, who suggested that while my generalist approach may pay the bills, that while the world needs people that are well-rounded, it rewards people that are well-pointed. So he said, pick one thing and do it well. So I picked accounting and business development.
Excellent. I'm visiting here today with Ian Tonks. He's author of the book Replacing the Rainmaker. Ian, I need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Since you can't take your wealth with you, spend time with your family. Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Ian Tonks, the author of the book Replacing the Rainmaker. And Ian, first segment we had your background, what led you up to doing the book, and it's primarily helping focused on the professional service firms. But in here the book talks about that we shouldn't be a wallflower. Can you tell me what exactly that means?
I think that's a subtitle in the messaging chapter, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And so the essential premise is that accounting firms, professional service firms across the board, tend to blur into one another. They have very conservative messaging. Look at the pictures on their websites. It's a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge or the City Hall steps. Conservative colors like dark purple and dark blue. They're not really saying anything unique. So there's clarity around who they are and what they do, but what makes them different, I think, is a different challenge. And so not being a wallflower speaks to the importance of actually getting your arms around your claims, being clear about what makes you uniquely different, and how you are best positioned to win a certain subset of clientele.
I love that. Now, I want to move on, though. Another part of the messaging for the book talks about how important it is as you move through letting people know what exactly you do and how you differentiate that. How does a firm, differentiate if CPA firm or professional service firm, how do they best approach helping the public who are looking at the potential clients coming in differentiate, why they're different than the next CPA down the road?
Right. So there's two parts to this. There's message and messenger. From a message perspective, in the book we talk about getting clarity around what clients want, the sort of generic claims like responsiveness and affordability and ease of access and utilization of technology. The second part is competitive analysis, understanding what your competitors do best, and ultimately finding those areas of disadvantage that you can position as your competitive advantage, which becomes the third part. Claim speaks to the combination of what clients want and your competitive advantage. So if you read a website or read a brochure, you should be able to pass out the claims clearly enough to know this is your firm's unique point of difference. The fifth part is the messenger piece, and that's training accountants or professional service folks to be able to lead a needs analysis with a client and understand how their needs connect to the things that your firm does best. And the process we use to do that is called ISBN, Issue, Solution, Benefit, Narrative. We create 3 E questions, entry, elaborative, and evaluative questions to really get to the root of the client's need and how it connects to the things that your firm does best. Think of it like guided discovery. And then the last part we talk about is elevator pitch. How often are you asked in 15 seconds or less to tell someone who you are, what you do, and what makes you different? So getting your arms around that message, I think, is important. And those 6 things combined make up the messaging chapter in the book.
I have to say, you have a very unique gift in the way that you're able to clearly articulate processes and put those into place. You said earlier that you broke your book into 96 subsets. Now, are you teaching seminars or workshops on, how to replace rainmakers in firms? Or
so this is all relatively new. About a month ago, I went to the AIM conference in New Orleans, which is the Association for Marketing Professionals in Accounting, and spoke at DFK International's conference. I've just started the process of marketing the book, so time will tell. But the supporting resource to the book is an online on-demand workshop series. So the hope is that I don't physically have to be somewhere to deliver the content as I used to be. And so of the 96 topics, 41 of them are in 1 hour self-study modules. Each of those has 2 activities, a continuing education assignment, and a quiz. So it's intended to be a self-study resource that accounting firms can use from day one when that relatively new to-be accountant walks in the door straight from college. We start the process of training them to be business development capable on their first day, not when it's too late when they're knocking the partner door all those years later on.
Ian, I need to take a quick break. We're visiting here with Ian Tonks. He's the author of the book Replacing the Rainmaker. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
I love fishing, with my family.
I think it would be easier to use a net.
It was so much fun.
The times when we are together, it makes it all the more worth it.
Having Dad teach them how to cast a fly rod, and
as long as we're doing stuff together, we're having fun.
Some people see a father and a son fishing together, while others see a succession plan. Welcome back. I'm visiting here with Ian Tonks. He's author of the book Replacing the Rainmaker. And Ian, the first 2 segments we talked about your background, how you had to give up a great career in the helping to create the National Football League for soccer in North America, and then moving over into working Dominican University, and then launching 5 businesses.
5 at one time.
Oh
yes.
my gosh! Wow. So
some
finally,
very unsuccessful, I might add.
Well, but life is interesting because that's part of the experience. We learn what works, what doesn't work, and then you hit in the midst of that, a natural strength with Revco, and culminating in the book that you put together, Replacing the Rainmaker. And so I salute you that a lot of people are afraid to even try and move out there, but this seems to be really your element in giving back and working with organizations and individuals of how do I get my brand awareness out. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about what are some of the most important things individuals or firms can do as they strive to become more competitive.
Well, I think there's 2 things. Again, if I go back to message, getting clarity around who you are, what you do, what makes you different. The foundation of business development lies there. From message, then transferring that understanding into the messenger. So training folks from day one how to do a needs assessment, how to research a prospect, ultimately how to build relationships, how to build like, trust, and credibility quickly. From the needs assessment, how to connect the needs of your clients to the things that you do best as a firm. And then ultimately, you talked about process. How do you assuage the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that comes with any major or significant commitment, and build a relationship so that while you may enter through the door of tax or audit or some other form of financial service, that you build on that relationship and ultimately leverage the commitment to become that individual's trusted advisor.
I would say that developing relationships is not always easy. Often they're approached with some level of skepticism, like, what's the agenda here? When you're working with individual companies, or even as you outlined this in your book, how do you put the person at ease when the professional advisor is trying to strike up a good relationship and have that trust?
There's probably a more complex answer, but the simple answer is to remove your own agenda and walk in with a clean slate and ask questions to better understand the root of the individual's needs, wants, and fears. And once you have that sense of understanding, and it transcends just the individual, it extends to their family, their business, ultimately who they aspire to be, where they want to live, you can be a significant contributor to that story. So I think the number one thing is teaching people to listen, ask smart, intelligent, thoughtful questions, and then ultimately have clarity around what you do best and connect your client's needs to those capabilities.
Excellent advice there. I want to move back into the most important quality that you feel a person can possess when they're practicing leadership skills?
Well, I'd say that most people would say vision is the stock answer, but in my experience, having run a company and being around other companies that are successful, I think it's a little left and right brain. I think you need to have vision. The quote, "Without vision, the dreamer never wakes," is probably a truism, but the reality is you also have to be able to build the bridge to get there. So I think great leaders have a capacity to both picture the future, but also establish the roadmap to enable the team to ultimately build a bridge to get to the intended destination.
Now, this is a kind of a tough question, but I honest answer. When you're looking into the future, say the next 5 or 10 years, and I'm going to lay the parameters here. In the U.S., you have this baby boomer workforce. For every 3 people retiring, you got 1 entering the workforce. How do you see that impacting the way things are done today? And if you were to cast a vision, and individual comes to you and says, "Ian, tell me, what should I be doing here?" How would you help to give them that vision and sense of direction?
Well, I think there's certainly a changing marketplace. So fast forward 5 to 10 years, globalization, technological innovation, the transition in generational shift, those are market shifts. I think in the industry of professional services, though, we'll see increased commoditization. We'll see a race to the bottom from a pricing perspective, which drives one very significant thing, specifically in the world of accounting, which is the day of the small local. The small local will become a large local. The large local will become a small regional. Small regional becomes large regional. Regional becomes national. So I think you'll see a lot of practice combination in the industry. So there are less purveyors of service, but those purveyors will be more broad and specific, if that makes sense. So there'll be both a mile wide and a mile deep. That's what I foresee for the industry. But in terms of the skill set to navigate that challenge, I think if I were to counsel a professional service firm, today the commitment is very much that when you knock on the partner door, you've established 3 skill sets: technical competence, your ability to lead and manage others, and your ability to develop business. That conversation should start on day 1. When a prospective accountant walks in the door, it's too late when they get to senior manager to ask the question, can you grow a book? So ask that question from day 1. Give them the skill set, the knowledge, and the tools they need to be successful, and I think all boats will rise with the tide.
That's a very, very well put. Now, as you look in replacing the Rainmaker, you're going to see some people have a real natural strength in one area, and there's a diverse crowd. But when you look at what can firms best be doing today, when you outline the vision of commoditization and the constant changing industry, how can they best prepare?
Well, I think the simple answer is to be both broad and narrow focused. To be narrow focused, they need to pick industries or services, areas of specialty that they can dedicate more of their resources to. But to be broad at the same time, they need to add service sets, other financial service tools, to make the accounting firm, the professional service firm, the one-stop destination for that client.
Ian, it's been a pleasure having you today with us on the show. Quickly, how does a person reach you?
You can reach me online at replacingtherainmaker.com, via email at ian@replacingtherainmaker.com, or via phone at 415-801-2661.
Thanks, Ian. We'll be right back after these messages.